Hey everybody, Backpack Hack here coming at you with another trail tip, and we're talking gear today. I want to go over some of the processes that I use to pick out a piece of gear, and this is how I choose my gear. I'm not saying you have to do this, or if you want to do it this way. You can certainly modify this process. But generally there are four things I look for in a piece of gear: figure, fit, function, and features, the four F's. This has nothing to do with not being able to serve in the U.S. military. These are the four things I look at. When I'm in need of a piece of gear, first off, I need to be able to afford it. So we have a dollar amount. I see a lot of people in the internet will ask a question, simply, what's the best fill in the blank? And without tempering that with a budget or dollar amount that they are either able or willing to spend, it's kind of hard to answer that question. Because generally, the most expensive piece of gear is going to be your best. So if somebody says, what's the best tent for this purpose? Somebody's going to suggest a $10,000 tent. And they're going to come back and say, well, I can't afford that, or I don't want to spend that much money. Well, you didn't say under X number of dollars. So that's one question that it kind of irks me when people ask that question. And if you have a budget number that you're willing or capable of spending, always answer that question. The other question I see a lot of is, I want to get X, I want to get this item, where can I buy it on a budget? Like somehow magically there is all this expensive gear available at the stores and online, Amazon, eBay, but somewhere there's a secret store that you need to have a knock and a handshake and a password to get in, that only certain people know about, that all this stuff is 10% of the regular price or 20% of the regular price, 75% off. In other words, instead of paying $100 for this compass, you can buy it for $25, but you got to know the password and the handshake and the secret knock. Think about it, folks. If there was a company that was producing like this compass for $100, and there was another company producing the exact same thing, the only difference was the name on the compass, for $25, do you think they're going to sell very many $100 compasses? At least not very long. Because once word gets out that says, everybody says, hey, this compass for $25 is a duplicate of this, it works just the same, it's just as durable, it functions just identical, they're not going to be able to sell very many $100 compasses anymore. So there is no secret place to buy gear on the cheap. Yes, you can get clearances. Yes, places like REI have garage sales. Yes, you can go to yard sales, thrift stores, and get some good bargains. And you know, things like this. This water bottle was 25 cents. It's stainless steel, and for 25 cents, you can't beat it. Whereas you go into the store, they're like $10, $15. Yes, there are ways you can save money. I also look at the function of a piece of gear. When I'm looking for a piece of gear, I'm looking for it to fill a specific need. For instance, when I go backpacking, I want to cook a meal. I'm going to go backpacking with this type of stove. I'm not going to go backpacking with this type of stove. This is for car camping. I'm not going to take this and try to cook for 5 people with a little stove like this. It just isn't going to happen. Conversely, this is my backpack cooking set, where this is my car camping. Features and functions. I put features and functions into 4 different categories. The requirements. Obviously, you know, if I'm going to get a stove, I want it to cook or boil water. If I want a flashlight, I want it to produce light. If I'm buying a knife, I want it to be able to cut things. Obviously, those are the functions that they're intended for. But there are other features in there that I break down into 3 other categories. One is a luxury. And I'm going to use these 3 radios. This is what I call my bunker-in radio. It's a Voyager Pro. It has all the bells and whistles. It has the long wave and short wave, the weather bands. It can charge with the solar panel. There's a crank here on the end. I can input a USB cord or a 6-volt power supply in it. It runs off of a detachable or removable 18650 battery, which I have a bunch of. It's got a reading lamp here underneath the solar panels. It's got a flashlight. It's got an antenna. There are all sorts of features in this thing that make it usable for a bunker in, natural or man-made disaster. If I'm here at the home, I'm just weathering in the storm or whatever, this is my radio. This radio still has a solar panel and a crank. It has a flashlight, but it only has AM, FM, and weather band. And that's it. It doesn't have a reading light. It doesn't have a removable battery. I can charge it off of a 5-volt DC USB cord or I think a 6-volt power supply. And I can also charge it off the solar and crank. This is my bug out radio. For backpacking, I go as simple as I can. AM, FM weather band with a flashlight, and that's it. The batteries in this are 3 AAAs. I think they're AAAs, yes, AAAs. And the only way to recharge them is to take them out and charge them in an external charger. That works fine with me because I'm not going to be relying on this for long periods of time. I go out, backpack, I charge them up, take my trip, and they're still good when I get back to the trailhead. There's another set of functions of who cares? It's got it, but I don't need it. For instance, this has this reading light. I may never use this reading light, but the fact that it's there isn't something that's going to say, well, I don't need that and therefore I'm not going to buy it, because this has all the other features that I do want. No reading light, don't need it. No reading light, don't need it. Has a reading light, still don't need it, but that doesn't keep me from buying that. But there's also a set of features and functions that will prevent me from buying a piece of gear. Recently I did a video on how to flashlights that cycle through their modes every time you turn them on and off. When you turn it off, you turn it back on, it's on a different mode. The brightness changes, or you're in strobe mode or SOS or what have you. And I hate flashlights that do that, and I did a video on that. That's why I don't have flashlights that do that. If I am forced to sit here and tap out a message in Morse code just to get my flashlight to function the way I want a light, really bright light, or I want a dim light, low lumens, to sit here and have to tap out a message in Morse code, that piece of gear is going to be out of contention. Hopefully this has given you an idea of how I look for my gear. Fit is, like I say, fit is something that I look for. There's a reason you don't see farmers driving Lamborghinis out in the field, because Lamborghinis don't fit there. That's why I take this stove backpacking, this stove for car camping. Figure, dollar amount. Sometimes I can get by with an inexpensive piece of gear. $100 compass when I'm backpacking, I would rely on. But I'm also going to carry a cheap one as a backup. But if you're just going to go on a day hike, maybe a cheap compass is going to be just fine for you, and you don't need a $100 compass. Again, figure, dollar amount. Features and functions, again, I break those into required, luxury, nice to have, well, who cares, and it's going to kick it out. It's not going to work for me. Hopefully this has given you an idea of how I pick my gear and how I choose my gear. Again, I will look at a lot of reviews when I look for gear. I base my choices on a lot of gear. And I will say this about online reviews. If somebody has a really crap piece of gear, let's say they bought a compass at a store for $10. It's not accurate. It's missing a lot of features. It doesn't work all that well. And they upgrade to let's say a $30 compass. Being inexperienced, they may think, well, this thing is great. It has all these features and blah, blah, this, that, and the other thing. They don't know that there's something better. So take reviews with a grain of salt, saying, yes, this piece of gear works great for you, but is it going to be great for me? That's the attitude you need to take away from that. Not everybody is a professional reviewer. I know I'm not. I do not claim to be a professional reviewer. And when I do review gear, you will not find me saying, you have to buy one of these. These are the greatest things since sliced bread. There's nothing better than this. I don't say that. I give you my honest opinion on a piece of gear. You take it at its face value. Maybe this feature or function you need, maybe you don't. Is it going to make a difference to you whether that feature or function works for you? Fit. And can you afford it? Figure. So with that, I'm going to wrap this video up. I think I've droned on long enough about how I choose my gear. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment on my videos. Like to hear from you. And this is Backpack Hat coming at you with this trail tip. Be safe out there, and I'll see you out on the trail.